Wait, hold up. We've done this before. Let's try something new. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to Rage Against the Mainstream, your full spectrum source for all things music, insight, and opinion. Today's date is March 8th, 2021, if you're listening to this on the day that it comes out. My name is Bill, and I'm joined here today, as always, with Steve.
Hello.
How you doing today?
Great. We just celebrated the 1-year anniversary of our 2-week lockdown not too long ago. Pretty exciting stuff.
Happy 1 year.
Happy 1 year.
Remember, like, back when we were doing these, like, remote and stuff, because, like, we weren't, none of us were sure?
Oh, yeah.
We've come a long way.
We have. We've come a long way since that first episode, and the amount of things we've experienced in that time is very interesting.
So, we were talking about this, and I believe I'm going to do a remastered episode 1.
Yeah.
And put it back out.
Yeah, back when we were just totally, like, basically getting butt-fucked by Metallica in our scripts all the time.
Yeah.
That's all we could talk about. Stu podcast. Let's talk about Metallica.
I have the perfect idea for a first episode.
Let's talk about the one thing that people have been talking about forever now and see if we can just be original as fuck about it.
Let's bash on Lars Ulrich.
And also sound with the most poor quality as we rip on Sane Anger for its drum quality. Yeah. And it sounds like we were talking underwater the entire time.
Honestly, I think if we just put an iPhone like,
Bro,
in
we
the middle of
sounded
the
like
table,
we were on
better.
transistor radios that we use, like in The Shining when she's trying to get in touch with somebody and it's like just crackly as shit.
Metallica.
Like we recorded it in 86 and we're like, Lars Ulrich's drumming was so horrible.
Like, honest to God, if we had like a boombox, like that, or no, like those old tape recorders, like the little microphones.
Yeah, like an 8-track.
Yeah, we had something like that just in the middle of the table. It probably would have sounded better.
Yeah, like the rock mic that we band mic that we plugged into the laptop and tried to record an album.
If we had the rock band mic, it would have been even better.
It's cool when you're doing punk rock, not cool when you're trying to sound
professional.
You're
trying to sound like a reputable music opinion source.
We stole this out of a box from Rock Band in 2008. Totally gonna do something here.
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
For those of you that would like to know how we get our sound, you can find us on our social media accounts, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter at RATM Podcast, or email us at ratmpodcast@gmail.com. I feel like I have to put this thing in like the beginning of the episode just in case no one listens to the very end.
Yes.
Which I hope you all do, because we do have really good stuff at the end of the episodes. Yeah. Every episode. But just in case, there's our social media outlets. Maybe if we like say it in the beginning, then we'll get like the hate mail, like, I don't even make it past 5 minutes past your show. That's the point.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Exactly. You gave us 5 minutes.
So, have you encountered anything new or interesting?
So I've countered something new.
Okay.
I also countered something, a theory that's interesting. So 2 separate things.
A theory?
The new thing was Coming to America 2. Finally released. It was on Prime. I watched it. And it's funny because the storyline I was a little skeptical about.
Yeah.
It actually makes sense the way they describe it. There's a lot of nostalgic scenes that they show from the original, just to kind of give you like flashback moments to, show why scenes make sense.
Do we get Arsenio Hall and Drag again?
Oh, yeah. They get that scene over again because that scene is relevant to the storyline, that whole bar scene. So basically, I'm not going to go down the entire thing. I mean, it's available to watch on the Prime. But it's good. It's like a fun watch.
Yeah.
The comedy at times feels very forced, not as fluent. I think there was something after Beverly Hills Cop 3 where Eddie Murphy's comedy just turned into very generic, like Dr. Dolittle.
Oh.
Is
it a return to form or no?
Subtly in ways.
Okay.
But it's like the supporting cast. Like Tracy Morgan's in it and he's hilarious.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The woman that plays the baby's mom of his kid is pretty funny. The barbershop scene, the characters that they portrayed in the original that come back are just as funny. The barbershop scenes, there's 2 really good ones.
Those are the funniest parts of that whole movie.
And they're literally the funniest parts in this movie. They're so short and lived, but they're fucking hilarious. I was crying at some moments. Arsenio Hall's great in it. And literally every character, with the exception of Lisa's boyfriend, I can't think of his name, the Soul Glow family. Whatever his name is.
I forget his name.
He's the only one that doesn't make a prize. And then also, I didn't know this, the woman who played Eddie Murphy's mom in the movie, the original, she was actually battling with cancer during that filming. She battled leukemia for 13 years and died in like the late 90s or something like that.
Oh, shit.
So that's why she's not in it. But the father's in it.
James
Lisa's dad's in it.
Oh shit, that's
Mr.
funny.
McDowell, it starts off very good. You get an introduction on a lot of the characters.
Lisa, come down here and meet the king.
Yeah, it's very good. Like again, it's just a fun family watch. Don't go into it with the expectation. Like I hope it's as funny as that
it's not.
Like don't let yourself down. It's just
that
stupid.
Sucks.
But it was fun watching it. Like I said, the comedy was good. Now the interesting thing, a few weeks ago, an episode with Will that was on. I mentioned a specific beverage that I was drinking.
Yes.
The Yerba energy drink. That's just, pure water, basically, some tea and 100. I've been ordering this stuff now off of Amazon in cases, because the only place that sells it is Wawa. Where I live, there's like no Wawas. All of a sudden, ever since that episode came out, it's fucking sold out. I can't get my beverage. This shit, like, first of all, anytime I ordered it, it was like never an issue. Never was like 6 left in stock. You know, sometimes they give you that warning. Bro, shit flat out sold out. Like, not in stock until end of March. And I'm thinking, like, not only am I getting no recognition for my blatant advertising that I'm not even getting paid for, but now I'm suffering as a result because I'm a highly acclaimed consumer of the Yerba beverage, and now I can't even order it. So I literally shot and it's funny because they have several other flavors, but I mentioned specifically the mango flavor that I drink because it's the best flavored one. Yeah. Only one that's sold out. The only thing you can do is buy the other flavors, which are no good in my opinion.
That sucks.
I couldn't believe it, dude. So now I'm sitting here, I'm like, is this my fault? Did I cause this?
Do we have this much of a reach?
Yeah, what happened?
Well, I hope one of these days Liquid Death Mountain Water gets back to us because I've sent them multiple emails.
I've actually had some of that.
It's
very good.
It's different. It's not like regular water. It's like wet.
I got off of soda and everything. I just have this weird fear that one day I'm just gonna like be super unhealthy. Like my dad's got all these health issues, and I'm like, is there something like in the genes and the biological? So I'm taking a proactive stance here. Preemptive strike on my health. Approaching 30. I could feel it in the bones. Woke up this morning, my neck was stiff. I'm like, this is no good. But yeah, I tried that because like I want something to drink that's not just like Poland Spring or sink water. Like I just want to feel like I'm drinking something that's still healthy but different. Good. And it was. I really enjoyed it.
As of last week, they're available at all 7-Eleven locations nationwide.
I noticed because that's all I fucking have up there,
dude.
Yeah.
I've been an advocate for this shit for a very long time. I tried it and I fucking fell in love. It sounds stupid. It's water in a can. It's different.
Yes.
It's like, I think it's better than Fiji. I think it's better than all of those like high dollar fucking Wawa brands you can get. Liquid Death Mountain Water is the shit.
Yeah, I'm one of those obscure individuals in the world that can't drink alcohol for the sake of my health, and you can take that for what it is and whatever you think it means. But that's basically what I do. It's, you sound stupid because you're drinking water out of a can or something, but it's the same aesthetic. Like I try to look for things to drink since I don't drink, alcohol anymore, where it's like, I could be drinking Poland Spring for 99 cents a bottle, or I can spend a little extra and have one of these once in a while.
And not for nothing.
It's like a treat.
Liquid Death looks like a craft beer.
It does.
Like the can looks like a craft beer.
I honestly, when I saw the previews for it, that's what I assumed it was like a spiked seltzer, but it's literally just water.
The
name alone is so fucking...
Dude, it like matches like the aesthetic of like everything that like we do in like our normal lives.
It is Liquid Death. I'm just going to purposely be edgy.
Yeah.
And be drinking their Liquid Death.
Well, they have it too. If you go on their website, you can join like their country club.
Yes.
And you sell your soul to them.
Interesting.
I've already sold my soul.
Imagine when you're like 55 and it's like time to go and like you have to go to hell. Like, remember that contract?
Yeah, remember the contract you signed?
Yeah, you can buy them out. You can get it back.
You can. It's $125,000
to buy your soul back,
or you can pay for a membership. I swear to God, you go on their website, liquiddeath.com. You go to their shop. They have.
Is this like Jim Jones's like late nephew that's, lost nephew that's running this shit?
Bro,
Sell your soul to us for a beverage.
Swear to God.
Basically how the Jonestown Massacre happened.
So you go on their website, Murder Your Thirst. Dude, like it's just like, the aesthetic of it is just so funny. So, let's see.
Cutie Palooties.
You go to their merch store.
Summon us.
Yeah. So you go to their merch store, right? Yeah. Like, their merch is actually pretty cool.
A little expensive, but not bad. That trucker hat's actually pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Chainsaw Massacre hat. That's pretty fucking cool. Dude, I'm actually probably going to buy that. I hate to say.
So, you go down. Like, they got cozies and, like, masks. Shirts and hats. I like the hat.
Dude, even the long sleeve looks like a metal band t-shirt. Look at the graphics. Go back. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. I like the logo. It looks like super punk. That long sleeve below it. Look, it's even got the decal on the side of the arms. Like a death metal shirt.
Hey, that's what it looks like.
Yeah. I'm even more about it now that I see the merch.
They have an album. Because they have a compilation album,
It's totally guys that listen to music like us.
Here's the cutie.
Look at those guys.
It's all about, like, saving the environment.
Oh, my God. And they're all, like, disgusting and butchered because of what we do to the oceans.
Oh, wait, hold on. Here's
That's
all three.
Pretty fucking cool. I got to get that turtle for Becky. Oh, my God. Dude.
But then
they're the Cutie Palooties.
Look.
Greatest Hates, Volume 2.
They have punk bands that play songs based off of their hate mail.
That's awesome.
Dude.
Oh my God, yeah, look at the lyrics. Rather murder myself than drinking this garbage. It's like the lyrical content.
Yeah.
You think just making fun of something that the devil does. Oh my God. Good try. Oh my God. Fuck. Wait, so go. Fuck off, your product is dumb. Canned water for dumbasses.
Like.
That's awesome.
But then, like, let's see. Get, hoodies, fucking patches, stickers, all kinds of shit. Then you go down. Country club membership, $125,000. The description is, this is turning into like a Liquid Death, like ad. But, yeah, so then you go into their country club. I've already sold my soul to them. Oh yeah, then you get a free 12-pack when you do your first order, no matter what you buy. From what I can, oh yeah, this is funny. Let's be clear. Liquid Death is a completely unnecessary approach to bottled water. In fact, we strive to be unnecessary in everything we do, because unnecessary things tend to be far more interesting, fun, hilarious, captivating, memorable, exciting, and cult-worthy than necessary things. Unnecessary things: smashing a guitar on stage and lighting it on fire, jumping over 14 Greyhound buses on a vintage motorcycle, cat videos. Necessary things: breathing, driving the speed limit. We start Liquid Death with the totally evil plan to make people laugh and get more of them to drink more water than more often. How? By taking the world's healthiest beverage and making it just as unnecessarily entertaining as the unhealthy brands across energy drinks, beer, chips, and candy. Most products in the health and wellness space are all marketed with aspirational fitness models and airbrushed celebrities, and many of us are tired of it. Why should unhealthy products be the only brands with permission to be loud, fun, and weird? Let's be honest, almost all marketing and branding is just theater. So we're going to treat our theater like a movie theater and have more fun with it. As longtime creative weirdos, we feel that positive, healthy change doesn't have to be boring and artless. And if you want to have a bottled water at a concert, in a bar, at a party, in your car, or anywhere, it shouldn't have to also mean drinking from a plastic bottle that isn't actually recyclable and eventually ends up in the ocean. As we continue to bring our unnecessarily awesome and infinitely recyclable bottled water option to more people, we are equally as excited to use our healthy water brand to help fund and elevate weird art, music, and entertainment that most big corporate brands would never touch.
It's smart that they actually put that in there, because the bottled water thing, it's absolutely true. I watched this documentary on recycling. Those Poland Spring bottles, Deer Park bottles, those real thin plastics, they do. They just wind up becoming basically into landfills and shit and trash, and this just doesn't get recycled.
Yeah.
So everybody that's been putting those in their recycling bin, you're actually causing more harm and don't fucking realize it, which is sad.
Yeah.
Because I was like throwing bottles out for a long time. Dude's like, yo, why aren't you putting those in recycling? I was like, my man, you're going to watch this documentary right now.
So
change your life.
If you're looking to get in touch or get a hold of a Liquid Death, you can get them at 7-Eleven, nationwide, Get Go. I don't know what the hell that is. They're nowhere around here, I don't think.
Never even heard of it.
Sheets
is somewhat close.
And Whole Foods.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. After seeing that website, I totally can. I mean, that's the problem. People take shit too seriously. Look at their album.
It looks like a death metal album.
It does. It look like, yeah. It looks really cool. I'm about it. Yeah, I'm all about the satire and, making people feel upset for no reason. Like, look at the black metal babies.
Killer baby namer. Get Liquid Death name my let Liquid Death name my child. Always trust the internet.
Real reviews from real psychopaths.
Sean M says, the first time I bought it, it was more of an experiment to see what it was about. So after drinking the first 12-pack, I turned right around and ordered 2 more.
So deadly, it killed the cancer in my liver. And also me as well. Hell, it isn't so bad. We have Wi-Fi down here. Awesome, crisp, and refreshing. Definitely ordering more. Yeah.
I mean, they definitely don't need our advertisement for this.
No, but here's
it's something that I believe in,
I'm totally for that because, again, there's more to the model than just saying, all right, we're selling you water in a can. They have good intent behind it by, giving you the stuffed animals that are all fucked up from what happens to when we pollute the oceans and making them all smiley and happy. Like, really triggering that emotion where you want to be so politically correct all the time. Like, why are you selling this water in a can? It's cheaper in a bottle. Whoever buys this is an asshole. Well, guess what, dude? If you're still recycling thin plastic water bottles, you're a fucking moron, first of all, and you're just doing what you thought you should be doing your entire life.
Yep.
A. B. That is right, what they say in their pitch. The marketing for shit that people buy all the time. Like when Gatorade comes out with its new, zero whatever and energy supplement, now new Gatorade whatever. And then it's got like Damian Lillard from the Blazers shooting basketball and fucking drinking this water. LeBron James saying this is what you should be. And you go out and buy it.
Yep.
Why is that any different for something that advertises in a more obscure fashion?
Exactly.
All right, you don't listen to fucking punk rock music or death metal, so what, you're going to hate on this brand because they're just doing what every other company does? Yeah. Look at all the seltzer products out there now.
Well, the thing is, dude, it's almost like, they're marketing towards like a niche audience.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, me and you.
Yep.
We both tried it based off the aesthetic of what it is.
Yeah. They fit our criteria.
Exactly.
But you're going to find reasons to not like it the same way I'm finding reasons not to like other shit, but I don't also fucking bash it to a point of like, what are they doing wrong?
Exactly.
You're just mad because you didn't think of such a simple fucking idea.
From what I can understand is, it was built, actually the company's only like 4 years old. And it was made by 3 friends out in California.
Yeah.
That's what I can...
So I'm saying it's that simple.
That's what I read about.
It's the most simple idea that, anybody could have stumbled upon, and if they're successful in that venture, more power to them.
Exactly.
That's what I can't hate when everyone gets all crazy about like Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and all them. Yeah, they're super fucking rich, but at some point they weren't. They just had a great idea, and it became something way more wise.
Or stole it from twins.
Possibly. Yeah, exactly.
Allegedly.
Who cares? Business is a cutthroat atmosphere. I hate capitalism and love it at the same exact time. You know what I mean? Because the uneven distribution of wealth. But
I would love it even more if I was on the receiving end of the capitalism.
And that's the worst part about it is I'm just too lazy to go out and do something, like to make something happen and get mad when I see other people become successful.
Exactly.
Like, oh, capitalism bullshit.
That guy's a fucking asshole.
Yeah, the world's keeping me down. And I'm just sitting on my couch all the time, eating chips off my chest. Like,
yeah, right? This ad brought to you by...
Guess at our social medias.
Yeah.
Anyway, we started with new and interesting. My interesting became super, like, rabbit hole of interesting fact.
Yeah.
You, new or interesting, anything, Bill?
Well...
Other than Liquid Death.
Yeah, right? If those of you that have been living under a rock haven't heard of Wandavision.
Oh, yes.
Season finale was, today. It was last night, Monday. When this comes out.
Yes. It was Sunday.
Friday.
Wait.
Yeah, they come out on Fridays.
No, the way you put it, if you're listening to this, it was last night, so I'm thinking it's Sunday because you're technically Monday.
Oh, no, if you're listening to this episode...
on Saturday, just to get everyone super confused in our cobweb of recording.
March 5th.
Yes. There you go.
March 5th was the season/series finale.
It's a mini series. That's it.
Yeah. Well, they left it kind of open ended to where it could be
possibility.
It could be a second season, or it could be totally.
But if
done.
they ended it the way they ended it, it's ended.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there was 9 episodes in total. Each episode like ranged from, I think like the first one was like 30 minutes.
What network?
Disney Plus.
Yes.
So the first one was like 30 minutes, and then like they were like a consistent like 45 to 50 minutes after that. It was like watching a new Marvel movie every Friday. It was amazing. It was really amazing.
Yeah.
It was. Don't go by the trailer of the show, because it's not what it seems from the trailer.
Usually when trailers are misleading or like not as interesting, those are the shows I want to watch. I've never seen a trailer for a movie that was like phenomenal and then really enjoyed the movie, because usually the parts in the trailer
Bro,
are the
I'm
parts
telling
you
you right
enjoy.
now, you got to watch it.
Yeah.
I've been fucking busting numbnuts' balls about watching it.
Well, here's the thing, and you
9
know
weeks.
me. Like, I go above and beyond to watch everything I can.
Yeah.
I'm the same way with movies as I am with music. The problem is,
you don't have Disney Plus.
I don't have Disney Plus, and nobody in my family does, and we had an argument about this because I'm just a fucking leech off of the streaming networks. Now the new thing is Paramount.
Yeah,
Paramount Plus, I'm guessing it's called?
Paramount Plus, but Paramount's a Viacom company, so you're going to have MTV, Nickelodeon.
Yeah, that's what happened, because the new SpongeBob movie came out not too long ago, and the kids all want to watch it. I'm a victim of niece and nephew rave to the point where they persuade the situation. So I need something real good to come out on Disney Plus to be like, hey, listen.
WandaVision.
Well, for the kids are the driving factor.
WandaVision.
I don't know if a 4-year-old's going to really get into WandaVision.
All the Disney stuff.
True. I got to find something on there that's like, guess what's on Disney Plus right now?
Wait, how'd you watch Soul?
Soul was all right. So Soul was done from a 1-week trial. Oh. No one's willing to pay for it. That's the unnecessary value at this point, because they think they can find enough in Amazon Prime between watching the same fucking episodes of Elmo, Sesame Street, and
honestly, dude, Disney Plus, they got everything.
I know.
They got like every Disney.
Dude, I
thing
might just
imaginable.
dold up and finally pay for my first streaming service.
It's only $6.99.
Yeah, I know. I just got on my own Apple Music plan now, because the family plan I was leeching off of, like, something happened over there. I got kicked off. I'm getting let go. I'm literally like a leech getting pried off, like leaving my bloody carbon footprint. Just, you know. Anyway, yeah, I gotta check it out, because I've heard too many people that come with credible. Dude, it was good.
And the last episode was fucking incredible.
The benefit is now it's done, so or at least the season, if it does go further.
You could probably find it on the Water Twig.
On this day in music history.
On this day in music history, March 8th, 1969, Creedence Clearwater Revival's Proud Mary hits number 2 on the Hot 100, where it stays for 3 weeks. It is the first of 5 CCR singles to reach the runner-up spot on the chart without ever hitting number 1.
That's crazy.
What the fuck?
Well, that's the
piss
thing.
me off, dude.
I wish I would have knew what was actually number 1.
I'm so curious, dude. Hold on.
Yeah, you're gonna look it up.
Yeah, what year? 1969.
Yeah. So March 8th, 1969. That's just so crazy to me, because I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because Creedence is so like coveted and beloved and like classic now, that maybe they weren't as influential or as beloved now or then as they are now. Maybe that's what kept them from number 1, unless it was something fucking absolutely insane, incredible in 1969, which I highly doubt. The only thing that makes me think, though, is, like, I wonder if Creedence has, like, the same kind of stigma as, like, Bruce Springsteen. Like, Bruce is, like, only big, like, out here on the East Coast because of the whole, like, New Jersey, the boss thing. And maybe Creedence is kind of, like, the same deal. But, I don't know. What was it?
So, on March 8th, at the time, it was Everyday People by Sly and the Family Stone.
Ooh. That was a good one.
Yeah, it hit March 1st, then it hit again. It actually hit February 15th, the 22nd, the 1st, and the 8th.
Oh, shit.
So it stayed for several weeks.
Damn, so this was the 4th week of it at number 1? And that song was that strong, Creedence couldn't fucking break through.
Yeah, January, listen to this. So for January, up until Sly took over on February 1st, up until January 25th, I heard it through the grapevine by Marvin Gaye.
Oh, really?
Was the number one
so
song
what
for
was
the
number
start.
one for 3 weeks after the 8th?
The 15th, the 22nd through the 29th was Dizzy by Tommy Rowe.
I don't even recall that song.
That lasted for 4 weeks up until April 5th. Then it was the Fifth Dimension with Aquarius.
Was Creedence even in the were they even in the top 5 at that point or top 10?
Well, that's going all the way. This is only giving me the tops for 1969, starting from January all the way down to December 27th.
Yeah, but I mean, like after it's 3 weeks at number 2, did they drop? Like, did they drop off of that list? You know what I mean?
Let me see. Billboard for 1969.
It's just wild to think, though. I don't even know that fucking song, Dizzy. Watch, we'll fucking look it up and be like, oh my god, I fucking knew that song.
I can't see a breakdown for how many weeks. It only gives me the top per week.
Whatever.
That's crazy though.
Yeah, it never hit number 1, and it's the first of 5
That's what
singles.
I was going to say. That's why it would piss me off that you have 5 singles that get that close and just can't get
Everyday
there.
People is a good song, though. I can understand that.
Of course, but I think it's great that I heard it through the grapevine was number 1 to start the year.
Yeah, right?
I would love that. Wait, was that cover after 1969? I mean, it had to have been because it came out after Marvin Gaye released it. So maybe Creedence was like, look, let's cover this. It might actually peak this time.
Nope. Well, I heard it through the grapevine that in 1974, rising from the ashes of Free and Mott the Hoople, the newly formed Bad Company played their first live gig at Newcastle City Hall in Newcastle upon Tyne, England.
You know what I heard about Bad Company? They have a great self-titled album.
Okay, well, anyways, it's kind of funny that they would even know that it was their first live gig. I mean, Newcastle City Hall. I mean, it's not like a giant. I can't imagine this being like a huge venue, but like that's just crazy.
What's cool about that though is Bad Company. I mean, they were just your typical like rock band. They were just a very simplistic rock band. You know, the self-titled album, Straight Shooter. They were also, that first album was released on Zeppelin's record label. What the fuck was it called?
I forget, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, but they hooked up with them and had them produce their albums, and
that's the thing with Bad Company too, dude. They're very consistent.
That's what I'm saying. Paul Rogers,
always good.
I saw it was technically Paul Rogers with a supporting band. They played Free and Bad Company songs.
Yeah,
and other than the way he looked, I brought this up before, but his vocals, man, he's still good. So fucking good.
And I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you can compare someone like Paul Rogers to someone like Sammy Hagar, like even in his 70s, is still fucking at the top of his game.
That's the thing, and I'm not a Sammy Hagar fan, but you can give him credit that if you are a fan of him, you're getting the same quality that you've expected.
Exactly.
I mean, we know how many vocalists that are just still, like Deep Purple. When I saw Deep Purple live, Jesus fucking Christ,
Look
dude.
at fucking Kiss.
Oh
Dude,
my
Paul
God.
Stanley can't fucking
Motley
sing at
Crue,
all.
if you're paying money to go see Motley Crue.
You know who's actually, speaking of Motley Crue,
age.
Poison, Bret Michaels is still pretty good live.
Yeah.
He's still very good live.
I'd be curious, and I haven't heard anything of recent of Sebastian Bach when we talk about that scene. Because he was another vocalist that had certain chops that I don't know if he can live up to anymore.
I don't think he's as good anymore. I think he's more of just a name now.
It's like Axl Rose.
Yeah, it's
Like
like
there's
David
a
Lee
certain
Roth,
vocal
Axl Rose,
styling that
Sebastian Bach.
you've mastered for a period of time.
Exactly.
It's not sustainable.
It's a personality.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can tell that that's
exactly
not a
it.
comfortable vocal style, that it was more for a theatrical feel, because Paul Rogers' voice is just his singing talent. Like, that's just natural ability. Going forward here in 1990, Rolling Stone calls Jefferson Airplane's disastrous new comeback album Most Unwanted Comeback of the Year.
They got a lot of balls to be talking about Most Unwanted anything. But then again, 1990, they were pretty credible.
That album stunk, too.
Was it bad?
Yeah, it's not good. I'm like a moderate Jefferson Airplane fan. Like, I like Sir Pillow and Tobacco Road's decent. there's some songs that are very good. They're more of like a greatest hits act to me. Surrealistic Pillow is actually pretty good, actually. I can't lie about that. It's a decent album. But this album, Jefferson Airplane was one of those bands that were not just, they couldn't be successful anymore.
Yeah.
The scene has totally changed. They were an adaptable band. They were a vibe band for its time.
Yeah, exactly.
70s, hippie music. It was like perfect. Mm-hmm. Like the Grateful Dead could continue to do what they did because their following was so cultish that they could just continue to play the same shit. Jefferson Airplane they were a circumstantial band for the time.
Yeah, exactly.
No way you were being successful in 1990. Sorry to say.
However, in 1994, 2 seminal albums from the 90s are released, one being Soundgarden's Super Unknown, and the other one being Nine Inch Nails' Downward Spiral. They entered the albums chart at number 1 and number 2, respectively.
Great example of why Jefferson Airplane couldn't be successful in the 90s, because this was what was happening, dude. Like, especially Downward Spiral, I mean, there's so many, I don't want to say
Super
industrial.
Insane,
well, I mean,
dude.
That's why I don't even want to bring that up, because it's that fucking good.
Downward Spiral is really good, too. I mean, I like Pretty Hate Machine more, but Downward Spiral's good.
They're both... They're like a toss-up. That's like Alice in Chains with me. Like, their albums interchange depending on how much I've been listening to it. But Downward Spiral, if you think of like all that industrial sounding, synth bands that were coming out at the time, Nine Inch Nails has got to be one of the most successful ones to do it, because it was a sound that now you just kind of attribute to, like, oh, they sound like Nine Inch Nails. Like Deftones were kind of there. Yeah. But Downward Spiral and Soundgarden Super Unknown were just...
I would like to do an episode one of these days based off of people that forged their own path and actually wound up being like extremely successful in something that they had made themselves. Because Trent Reznor is one of those guys that rarely ever get talked about his contributions to music like that.
Talking Heads.
Yeah.
They're one of the first bands to really incorporate like outside instruments into being very quirky.
And like you think of the bands that have like spawned from the idea of Nine Inch Nails. I mean, like Marilyn Manson. I know like he's a really bad example as of late, but the shit that he was doing with Trent Reznor, like that first album, was fucking insane.
Yes,
because of the influence from him.
We could talk about musicians that also did production.
Oh yeah,
that's a good one.
Mark Motherball from fucking Devo.
A lot of them.
Yeah, a ton of people. Clint Eastwood even.
Yes, Clint Eastwood. Going forward now to 2003, 50 Cent's first single into club off of Get Rich or Die Trying. Absolute fucking classic hip-hop album. Tops the Hot 100 for the first of 9 weeks. That fucking song, man. I remember when that came out, dude, that was an absolute game changer.
I remember seeing the music video with him doing the fucking like upside down.
He was in the fucking like because he was like in a rehab facility,
shady training facility or something.
And you got introduced to like Young Buck and Tony Yayo and Lloyd Banks because they were all in the video. But G Unit had
Eminem and Dre were in the video too, weren't they?
Eminem and Dre, they were in the scientist, watching him do his whole rehabilitation thing. Now, 50 Cent had music before this, but this album, Get Rich or Die Trying, to this day, and it's great now because we're talking, 18 years later.
Yeah.
It's like considered a classic rap album. Because remember, like, that was new to us. Brand fucking new.
How old does that make you feel?
It's really bad.
Like, 50 Cent?
Yeah,
when he had a music career?
Yeah, dude. It's like...
Well, I remember his first album.
Up next, some classic hip-hop songs. We have Sugar Hill Gang and 50 Cent coming. Like, it's weird, dude. It is weird. Because then I hear, like, there's rappers Lil Baby and Dub Baby and just, like, all these rappers today that are, like... You hear about the drama between these two guys? Because I see shit on Instagram all the time. Like, dude, drama between these guys. Never even heard of these guys. Got cancel culture talking about Eminem and shit. Like,
oh my God, dude.
And I gotta listen to this garbage about some fucking rappers that literally just have each other's names with different surnames.
The thing that fucking annoys me is that it's off of a song that isn't even that good. They're talking about Love the Way You Lie.
We're not gonna. I just brought that up in context. We don't need to do this right now.
Okay,
we can save this for a whole nother fucking moment.
Yeah, because it's just so like this annoys me more than the WAP thing.
I know.
Wait. Just this is the only thing I want to say about it. How the fuck is WAP not a part of cancel culture, but they're gonna fucking single out this one Eminem line
from years ago,
from 2010?
Yeah, totally acceptable for that to be mentioned, but WAP can be the number one song.
I did see something that's funny though. It's like cancel culture is coming for Eminem. Eminem is the guy that cancels people.
Yeah, basically.
I was like,
This is the equivalent in the world of somebody sniffing Oxycontin and just yelling at somebody for like using heroin. It's the same concept. Like people that love the song WAP are coming crazy at Eminem. Like, slow the fuck down, all right? I'm all about feminism and shit, but we're not going to support that because I don't need my fucking 5-year-old niece jamming out to the Kids Bop version because it's acceptable for the moment. And then when she hears the real version, it's already in her head.
Exactly.
And now she's trying to be a bad bitch over here at the age of... No, we're not doing that. That's the problem with the world.
Speaking of a bad bitch...
It's kind of fucked up setup to this fucking story.
Horrible setup.
Speaking of the differences between Oxycontin and heroin.
Yeah, right? 2011, last thing here in music history, Alice in Chains' bass player Mike Starr dies of
another band with great self-titled album.
Alice in Chains' original bass player Mike Starr dies in 2011 of a prescription drug overdose at age 44. He was the last person to see the original singer of Alice in Chains, Lane Staley, before he died in 2002.
Yeah, it's a tragic story.
Horrible story. And like the whole, like his section on Dr. Drew, like when he's talking to Lane's mom, the shit's, it's haunting, it's skin crawling, it's insane.
Yeah.
But I think something wants us to talk about self-titled albums.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, twice in one time.
It's kind of coincidental that we mentioned a couple bands that actually
had
relevance to each other.
Yeah, this wasn't even planned.
Yeah, strange. Anyway, whatever that thing was saying, mentioned self-titled albums, and it made me think to myself while that thing was saying stuff. There are a lot of self-titled albums out there.
Oh, yeah.
And I never really thought to really talk about that because not every band releases one. It's usually a common thing that it's the first album.
Yes.
And then a lot of times people will release it later in their discography history.
When they get tired or
sometimes,
lazy.
Yeah, sometimes they're like almost like attempts at comeback albums.
Yes.
Particularly one band we will mention released one that happens to be the best of their later half discography. Mm-hmm. And then some of them, are also just unnamed albums that people will disclose as other things. So I said we would set the ground rules, bands that we'll mention that have these albums.
Well, self-titled, obviously, meaning just the band's
Yeah,
name.
Either it was an untitled album that's just claimed as their self-title, or the color of the album, for instance. There's a couple bands that just are named by that, or an image on the album, they'll use that. Another ground rule is bands like Van Halen and Led Zeppelin are just multiples of a self-title, so you can only use the original.
Exactly.
It's the first one that counts, because it just didn't have a number over it.
Yep.
So I figured we would just mention several bands, several albums, and then kind of narrow it down to maybe like 3 of our favorites to ultimately pick probably our favorite one. Doesn't have to be definitive, but just for the sake that we don't script this out, we kind of just freeball the shit out of it. This is basically improv studio time.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll just go off the top of our dome, and hopefully we rattle some feathers because we're like, oh, you didn't mention System of a Down. Like, hopefully we get like that one guy out there that's just upset that we didn't mention a specific one.
Exactly.
So let's
Well, since we just talked about Mike Starr, we'll talk about Alice in Chains' self-titled album.
Probably going to be your favorite.
Not the favorite that I'm going to talk about today, but it's one of my favorites.
You know what's funny about this album, the Alice in Chains self-titled? Because this is another one where we talk about later in their career, last album, last studio release, I guess we could say.
This album, though,
with the Lane era.
Yes.
That's what I attribute it to.
Yeah,
I consider Alice in Chains 2 different entities after Lane.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, the Alice in Chains self-titled album is the one with the dog on it.
Yes.
The 3-legged dog, commonly referred to as the dog album.
You get multiple colors depending on the jewel case that you purchase.
I have the
purple one, right?
The purple and green.
Case. Yeah.
Badass.
Yeah.
I had the tape at one point too.
Yeah, I remember you showing me that.
Or maybe I didn't.
I think you had it, or Connor had it, or something.
Connor had the tape. Yeah, Connor had the tape. I have the CD.
Okay.
But here's the thing, dude, and I was talking about this the other day. This album is really good. Yes. Well, hold on. It had the potential to be extremely good. I always felt like this album was lazy.
You know what? It's funny because you brought this up, actually, raving about this album. this was a few years ago, actually, around the time when we started about this, we brought up Alice in Chains in a conversation. And like I mentioned before, they're interchangeable, their albums.
Yes.
This album always fell short for me, but the thing about it is, because the way we know Lane's story, it is an interesting album on its own because you actually get to see the progression of Lane through Alice in Chains' discography, like his mental state, how dark this album is, the lyrical content. This album, like, to me, was like necessary, but I can get what you're saying about.
Like you think about it, dude. You think of like the progression of Alice in Chains and like Jerry Cantrell, for instance. Think of all the albums, and then you think of like Degradation Trip.
Yes,
and then what was the other one? There's Degradation Trip 1 and 2, and then Boggy Depot. You see how that music progressed, and that essentially was Alice in Chains. It had everyone from Alice in Chains except for Lane Staley.
Yes.
I feel like the music itself was very lazy. Like, you think of like the singles from that album. You have, Grind. Grind's not a bad song. Yeah. I do like it. Then, like, Again, I've never liked Again, like, at all.
Sludge Factory's
Factory's great. Goddamn is amazing.
Yeah.
How they didn't make Goddamn a single is like beyond me. Then you have like Frogs.
But you think about what we're saying here, though. As much as we can say, like, this is how good some artists were, that we can talk about this album as just not being that good because of the bar that they set. But this fucking album would blow most of any other 90s band's music out of the fucking water. Put it this way, whatever Blur released, I'm taking the self-title by Alice in Chains over their entire discography. Fucking Oasis, as popular as they are, taking this over every Oasis album. Yeah.
I just feel like it sucks that it was the final album with Lane, because I feel like there was more gas in that proverbial tank.
But that's the thing, though. I think the band did, but Lane didn't. Lane never had full-on writing credits, with the exception of a couple songs, like Angry Chair and
I don't even think
others.
He had.
But it's a shame because, again, you can tell the progression of where Lane was headed, where the band was headed, just through their discography. Because even Dirt is very dark in comparison to, Facelift. And the way I see it is this was another band where, unless there were changes within the group, like the hiatus would need to happen or something would need to happen. Because it's even like the stories about Nirvana that they were heading for a breakup anyway, and all the shit that you could talk about, or the what ifs or whatever. But this album, it's a shame because it's like what they left us showed the potential that there could have been something after this that could have been better if there was a period of time to like regroup.
You know what's kind of funny though, because obviously, like, we know most of this shit we do know off the top of our heads, but there's a lot to where we check through credible sources. Yes. And I'm actually looking at the like writing credits for Self-Titled. All the lyrics were written by Lane.
Oh yeah,
except for Grind.
Yeah,
Heaven Beside You, and Over Now. Those are probably the three best songs on that album.
Yeah, it makes sense. But that's another thing. Like I'm saying, Angry Chair, I brought it specifically because he has a full writing credit.
Yeah, he wrote guitar for that,
and he's usually always the lyricist involved. But yeah, the fact that I'm sure Jerry got writing credits for the other songs.
So music. All right, so on the Jerry only songs, actually there's only two Jerry only complete Jerry songs. One's Grind and one's Again.
Okay.
Lane wrote the lyrics to everything except for Grind, Heaven Beside You, and Over Now. The band collectively, actually, Lane didn't write any music, like actual like compositions for it. Jerry Cantrell,
that's expected most.
And Sean Kinney wrote most of the album. Over Now, Nothing Song, So Close, Sludge Factory, and then Mike Inez was included with like Brush Away, Shame in You, Goddamn, and Frogs.
Yeah, not to get too stuck on this album because there's a bunch we want to talk about. But this is just an album to set the tone for the saying of it was a later release. I mean, we know Alice in Chains continued after Lane passed.
Yep.
But it is one of those albums where it makes you quite like, why the self-title and when does it come? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because a lot of the bands will talk about, usually it's that first album. Sometimes it's not. And almost sometimes, like the one album I'm going to bring up now, it's almost like a rebirth of an album, which is the Fleetwood Mac self-title. The Fleetwood Mac self-title is interesting because there were albums before that during the Peter Green era, and everybody assumes Fleetwood Mac is the first album. Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks, Christine, John McVie, Lindsey Buckingham, that whole lineup that everybody's accustomed to. Fleetwood Mac self-title, forget that there's albums before that. It's like Rain and Blood. Like Rain and Blood by Slayer. No, there's no self-title, but there's albums before that.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Fleetwood Mac self-title is like that perfect idea of a rebirth of a group. You had a couple albums prior. The Peter Green stuff's actually not bad. It's not the Fleetwood Mac people are accustomed to.
Yeah.
But that Fleetwood Mac self-title with Rhiannon on it, blue letters on it, Landslide. Landslide is that one song where that defined the band. I mean, how many times have you heard Landslide on the radio? Or Rhiannon on the radio.
All the time.
I mean, because that's not Rumors in the sense of being a total hit-made album.
Yeah.
But that album coming out later in their career as a start with the entire group. I'm wondering if that was planned, or sometimes do they just not come up with a title? Because, again, most people will think the first Fleetwood Mac album is Fleetwood Mac by Fleetwood Mac, but that's not the case. And it's just interesting to know that, because that's one of those albums that comes out later in a career where it's phenomenal.
What's also kind of funny too is that it took over a year for it to reach number 1 on Billboard 200.
Yeah, well, I mean, because you have to understand, Fleetwood Mac did not have the notoriety until that lineup, change, which is interesting. Because then after that, once Rumors hit the fucking bricks, it was like,
that's actually really crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of good shit on that album that really set the tone for where Fleetwood Mac was going to be headed in their career.
Yeah, exactly. Warm Ways Over My Head, Say You Love Me.
Yep.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
It's still so crazy that it took it over a year.
Yeah. I mean, Nirvana's different. Nirvana didn't take nearly as long, but they already had Bleach out and they were nowhere to be found. And then they released Nevermind. They're still playing VCR retail stores to 8 people touring for their Nevermind album that becomes one of the best sellers. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it just takes bands to get traction. And especially in that day and age, you didn't have nearly as much marketing availability.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Fleetwood Mac, that is definitely a top self-title in my opinion. Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, you know what I want to do, too, as we're doing this? I want to write down how many... or like what the certifications are for this, because this Fleetwood Mac album 7 times platinum.
Yes.
That's crazy. I'm going to look up Alice in Chains' real quick while I'm thinking of this. I know this Alice in Chains album did not do well at all. It did not do good. I think it sold well in the beginning. Yeah, 2 times platinum. Another, as it should come as no surprise to anybody that listens to this show, you knew it was coming. Some of you were surprised that it was not my first. It just so happens to be number 2 on my list. What I'm talking about right now is the first Van Halen album, aptly or
Van Halen 1, Van
Halen 1.
No, Van Halen.
Van Halen 1. Guess what the certification is on that bitch?
What?
Van Halen 1 is Diamond.
Goddamn.
Diamond, like Diamond David Lee Roth. No. I'm pretty sure everyone's tired of hearing me talk about how great Van Halen is and they're the best and I suck Eddie Van Halen's dick and it is what it is. Let the fucking jokes ensue. But the first Van Halen album, you literally cannot go wrong. And I think it was actually until you listened to the first album in its entirety is when you finally got the Van Halen thing and you understood where I was coming from with it for so many years. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Like I always go back to the mindset of, imagine you're a fucking teenager in 1978 and this motherfucker comes out. You've never heard nothing like this before. It's absolutely groundbreaking and will forever be groundbreaking. It's one of those quintessential albums to listen to if you're, hard rock fan, if you're starting out playing guitar or music in general, and you want something to blow your mind, even to this day. If you're a beginner musician, you put on Van Halen, it's going to blow your mind.
That's the thing with that album.
It transcends.
I'm a Van Halen fan in the moderate sense because of that album.
Yeah.
Because, again, as much as it is good, I also hold into account that I use context for everything when I talk about music in most cases, especially older stuff, because I find a deeper appreciation when I watch live sets, when I watch, tutorials for it so you can see the actual guitar work, up close, because, you didn't have many videos back then of the actual musician performing the song, so you get to really see, how it's played and stuff like that. But Van Halen 1, thinking about when that came out, the time, I always have to bring that up because that's just an absolute fucking game changer to know that shit was being recorded at the time that it was. You think about what people's context of music was, during the time that album came out. To see something like that, that's why I think it's funny when we talk, like Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny. Like, that's the only thing that could make sense of why this is as good as it is. Then it found its way into the hands of Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah. Angus Young was playing a show in New Jersey.
Yeah.
He flicked a pick out to the kid out in the crowd. His name was Eddie.
This is
Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, it's all dumb.
And they're like,
it's got to see, that's the only thing. Like, it has to be.
It is funny, though, that when you put it into that perspective, because the pick didn't go anywhere else after Eddie Van Halen. Like they said, the last time it was seen was with Eddie. And when they went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or whatever to go get the pick, it was on Eddie's guitar. So it was just Eddie Van Halen was the last guitar hero, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Based off what that movie's context
exactly.
is. It's just so funny.
And it makes sense because he basically is. I mean, if you think about some of the people that are still around today.
No one is as influential as he is.
He everyone thinks generic businessman was Donald Trump. That was just
exactly.
The Eddie Van Halen, when you think of just supreme guitar. Yeah, you have Yngwies out there and Satriani's and stuff, but Eddie Van Halen is just that name. First thing you're thinking of immediately, any group. I don't care if you're from fucking Camden or Morristown, dude. You know Eddie Van Halen. You know the name.
The second you see the stripes,
it's over. That's another thing.
When you mention Guitar Hero, there's two people that always get brought up. One is Jimi Hendrix. One is Eddie Van Halen. And obviously, we know that there's better, more technical guitar players. But as far as a influential stance goes, I don't want to hang up and talk about Eddie Van Halen too much with this album because he is the shining star on this, but he's not the only shining star. You have superb fucking, performances from everyone in that band. Michael Anthony, fucking Alex Van Halen, David Lee Roth. This is by far the most put together Van Halen album from the David Lee Roth era. And it's just quintessential. And granted, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of the other albums that came after this one, but you can just tell from hearing it and the energy on it, they were hungry.
Oh, yeah.
They were a band that knew they were going to make it and they were going to make it at any cost. And it's funny because the version of the album that we all know and love, it's actually the second version of the album. The first version was recorded with fucking Gene Simmons and it sounds completely different. Well, it's demos, but it sounds completely different. It sounds like a fucking Kiss album.
Yeah.
Actually, from those particular
recordings.
Another,
I was going to say, that's another thing, because that's where they get a lot of the recognition for the whole glam metal scene that arose afterwards. But Van Halen, to me, always still had that edge, Guns N' Roses type feel without fully tipping into the Scorpions and Poison and stuff.
Well, yeah, the thing, too, the influences that they had, their main influence was Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
They were huge Black Sabbath fans. But funny enough, and this will be the last Van Halen thing I want to bring up. Kiss's Love Gun was being recorded around the same time that Van Halen 1 was being recorded, or, at the time where Gene Simmons was managing Van Halen, I guess. There's a version of Christine 16 with Eddie Van Halen playing guitar on it that was surfacing on the web not too long ago. It's pretty incredible.
So, one I'm going to mention here, because we're adding charts in this, so I kind of changed my thing. Because you could, like, just to narrow off some albums. I mean, we have Black Sabbath. We have System of a Down.
Yeah.
Metallica's Black Album. I'm sure were you planning on mentioning it? Okay, I'll let you mention that one, which is Metallica, basically. But one I'm going to mention here, because this is actually one of my favorite rock and roll albums. Just it's simple rock and roll. It's just the vibe of the 70s.
Yeah.
Boston by Boston.
Ooh.
Here's the thing about that. Boston's discography is nowhere in the likes of, let's say, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, bands that came out around the time, The Doors. Like, there's a lot of other bands that I was going to mention here. But when I was looking at album charts and certifications, Boston in the United States, 17 times platinum. Diamond in Canada.
Oh, shit.
I did not realize 17 million certified unit sales in the United States. 17-time platinum.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Because a 10 million crosses you out the diamond era.
Yeah.
And there's 17 times platinum for this album. Because Boston by Boston, man, I mean, think about it. More Than a Feeling.
Dude.
How many times have you heard that fucking foreplay long? Peace of Mind is just one of those... You can't be in a bad mood and listen to Boston, especially this album. It's
That's
like
the truth.
Impossible.
It's the truth. I love Boston. I've always been a huge fan of Boston.
Like live too, his vocals, I don't know how he fucking does it. You want to talk about just, natural talent?
Yeah, and abilities. Oh, fucking A, dude.
You want to talk about Sad Story too, the way he died. Like, I've brought it up on previous episodes because I think we actually talked about his death on a music history relation, but he's one of that's one of those bands where, you're having a bad day, More Than a Feeling, Peace of Mind, rock and roll band. I mean, there's just so many songs on that album that are just, it's such a fucking clean, perfect, flawless, front to back, easy listen, nothing spectacular, off the wall, just, it's a fucking perfect rock and roll album.
Oh, fucking A.
17-time platinum. Jesus.
Yeah, that's insane. It's actually funny because I think that might be the highest selling album of the ones that we're getting ready to talk about, or the ones that we are talking about.
Self-titles, yeah.
The second highest that I want to, the second highest, which is immediately below the Boston album, is Metallica's Black Album.
Yeah, this is crazy because when I just realized this, to know that Boston was even that high was crazy. Now knowing that Metallica's even underneath them, I'm starting to think about all the other self-titles that are below this one. I didn't realize it was the best.
Actually, before I bring up Metallica's Black Album, I do want to... Did you know that there is a correlation between Boston and Def Leppard? It's not
In what way?
It's all right. So the guitar player Tom Scholz.
Okay.
Were you aware that he's like an inventor and like fucking genius, like MIT type genius inventor guy? He created this thing in the 80s called the Rockman. The Rockman was like the first pocket guitar amp, right? It was the size of a Sony Walkman from the 80s. And with this device, you had very, very, very convincing guitar sounds, clean and distorted sounds. Def Leppard's Hysteria album featured that particular device extensively. Like, all the clean guitar sounds come from that.
Really?
Yes.
I wouldn't blame him because that fucking sound is awesome.
Yo, fucking A, dude. That's the thing. It's just funny because this dude, Tom Scholz, like, he made so much shit and it became so widely popular and so fucking, sought after. He probably didn't even have to do Boston anymore.
Yeah.
Like, this Rock Band thing was like fucking, like, it was like groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Like my 11 rack and shit is nothing compared to what that was back
Not even
when
close.
that came out.
And how old is that? That's what's even great about it.
The Rock Band, I think, came out in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And like, dude, it was just amazing. It's all over. It's like anything like 80s hard rock, whatever, it's in there. It's in everything. But Def Leppard were one of those bands that used it like extensively in the studio.
Makes sense. Like,
this little fucking stupid plastic box made these guitar sounds that are like,
memorable as fuck.
Exactly.
Too. Yeah,
dude, it's
that's
crazy.
another thing about when we talk about these bands too. Not only do they have like definitive vocalists, but their tones. Like Van Halen,
yes,
you could play it without David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar, and you know what band that is.
The Brown sound.
Boston. As soon as that fucking intro riff kicks in for More Than a Feeling, a piece, you know that's Boston.
And actually, Tom Scholz used all of his own equipment for Boston.
Yeah, that's.
Like now hearing or thinking that you can hear those sounds and kind of put two and two together.
That is an interesting correlation.
I should write a book of all these like stupid little things.
You
I know.
Bill's facts.
Bill's fact of the day. Well, another Bill fact of the day. The album, the Black Album,
also known as Metallica.
Yeah, Metallica. Yeah.
Untitled.
Yeah,
left to discretion.
On the sticker that you get in the store, it says Metallica.
Like Pearl Jam's Avocado album, or Weezer's Blue album,
exactly.
Other albums we're not going to get too in depth in, but to make reference.
Exactly. This album needs no introduction. This is what put Metallica into the mainstream and brought them into a wider audience than ever before. And the purists hate it. There's
what are you trying to say, Bill?
I don't know. I'm just saying. You're a Metallica purist.
I mean, I like the Black Album. I wouldn't say I hate it.
All right.
But if I could only own 5 albums by Metallica, it would be the first 4 and probably search for the No Life Till Leather EP.
Yeah, but I don't think you can count that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. There's just like I don't know.
Or
like
Metal
I
Up
get
Your Ass EP.
Yeah. Look for that. The original Kill 'Em All recordings or something. But you're right. I mean, the Black Album is great, and it makes sense why it's their best selling.
It's one of those albums, and like how I can distinguish a good album is if I can put it on from start to finish and not have the desire to skip a track.
Yes,
I used to feel that way about this album.
Yeah, and I
don't like Wherever I May Roam. I hate that fucking song.
Yeah. Roll me from the bone, call me what you burn. Like, it just, the riff's pretty cool.
The beginning school, the sitar and shit.
But then when it gets like slow and like Through the Never's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I get that.
My
Enter
favorite
Sandman still is enjoyable. It is one of those beat to death songs, of course.
However, when that song comes on, you turn up the radio and scream.
And the live version, just like the build up to the intro is just it's like, and it's funny because at one point that was a new song.
Yeah. Could
now
you imagine
when we've
hearing that
heard
for the
it,
first
as I'm saying,
time?
now when we've heard it, it's like, oh, here's this song again.
Dude, I've always said it that the Black Album is probably the best produced Metallica album out of all of them. And the Black Album, hands down, is my favorite drum sound of any album ever.
Yeah.
The way that the Bob Rock produced that album with those drums, it is second to none. You can't get a better drum sound, in my opinion.
I think the only reason I get on the Black Album is because the Black Album gave them a level of confidence that took them in such a wrong direction.
Exactly.
Like the Black Album was like the bad influence friend. You know, they were doing so well already, and then they met up with this new friend, and they were, you know, like, let's try this, and they're like, oh, it's pretty cool, and they went from like, you know, smoking cigarettes and weed to injecting crank into their fucking dicks. Like, it spiraled so greatly after
Do you really
the Black
think they went
Album.
that far?
Load and Reload are so bad, dude. I'm tired of trying to enjoy them.
Yeah.
And Insane Anger was an absolute kick in the teeth. And we don't have to, beat this to the ground. But again, I think the Black Album was an influence to give them a level of confidence, thinking that they could totally adapt their sound away from we started thrash metal, basically, to like, let's become a heavy metal group.
Yeah, and it's so funny, too, because you think about in 1991, you had Cowboys from Hell and the Black Album that came out.
And look at
the progression of Pantera versus the progression of Metallica after that.
So different. Think about the progression of Motorhead. Think about the progression. Even Megadeth
Countdown to Extinction.
They almost fucked everything up there, but they still were a thrash band first.
Until Risk.
Yeah, Risk. I mean, but Risk has some decent songs on it. That's the difference.
Euthanasia's all right too.
Euthanasia got a little like a Toot Lamont, like got a little, was a little like anthem-y.
Like Family Tree's pretty good off that.
Yeah. But then I mean, even Dystopia, like getting Adler on there, trying to get a rediscovery of their thrash. Like Metallica, like went so far that they're trying to come back, and they lost that touch. So now they're stuck in this pigeonhole of like what's comfortable for us and what can we get an album out on. not to go down them a lot, but yeah, I agree with you though. The Black Album, it makes sense the way it's sold.
The God That Failed is my favorite song off that album.
I think Through the Never is probably my favorite song on that album, just because of
originally that was supposed to be the first single.
And I'm surprised it isn't.
Bob Rock suggested that Enter Sandman be the first single,
which is interesting because it made sense in the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
But Through the Never it's like Lithium off of Nevermind instead of Smells Like Teen Spirit. But Through the Never is
it did have good riffs.
Through the Never reminds me of like Dyer's Eve. Through the Never is like that song on the Black Album that gets overlooked because of everything else that's on that album.
My Friend of Misery gets overlooked a lot too.
Oh yeah, I agree. But Wherever I May Roam, Nothing Else Matters, of course.
I hate that song as well.
I mean, this is what I'm saying. There's a lot of songs on there where... couple I want to mention before I get into the
16 times platinum, by the way.
Yeah, right under 17 times. I can't believe Boston went 17 times platinum.
They're just one of those bands,
still
dude.
Doesn't shock me, but it's still shocking at the same time.
Well, if you think about when it came out versus when Black Album came out, if Black Album had came out, give it like another fucking 20 years.
Yeah, it'll get there. But I'm saying, like, think about all the rock and roll albums that we mentioned. Like the one I'm about to mention now, 8 times platinum, Led Zeppelin 1. We're talking less than half of the record sales of Boston self-titled. Led Zeppelin 1, like the most... I own an original copy of Boston by Boston, and it's dirt fucking cheap.
Yeah.
And I guess it's the limited amount of manufacturing for certain albums. Obviously, that makes them more expensive.
Yeah.
But Led Zeppelin 1 only being 8 times platinum compared to Boston self-titled.
Well...
You think about iconic records that you own.
Yes.
Dark Side of the Moon. Led Zeppelin 1, like right there.
Yeah.
Is like just that iconic album.
The way you have to think about it too is the fan base and the trajected audience of these albums. Like Boston was way more like commercially friendly than Led Zeppelin.
That's got to be the
Led Zeppelin had that whole like fucking like devil worshiper thing behind them that turned a lot of people off, especially back then. Like now they
what
would
about
be like,
Fleetwood Mac's Rumors?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even as selling as fucking Boston by Boston. And that's literally basically a greatest hits album.
Yeah.
But no, like I don't like to get on Boston to say that they don't deserve it because I still think that album is as good as it is. It was just shocking to know that that's the best-selling self-title of all time.
It is crazy.
But 8 times platinum, Led Zeppelin 1. Not my favorite Led Zeppelin album, sadly. But it's still a phenomenal album.
Oh yeah,
and we talk about albums at the time that they were released. We talk about Van Halen, Led Zeppelin 1. Man, I mean, we talk about the chops of Clapton, Page, and back when they all left the Yardbirds in their brief time there, and Cream was established, and Cream was just the blueprint for what was to come in like that blues rock, that real rock and roll that was about to come. And then Led Zeppelin comes out, and you got Jimmy Page up there. That lead for Communication Breakdown.
Oh yeah.
I mean, solos like that weren't really that was not a thing to do back then. Guitars were never really used in such a fashion until guys like Hendrix and Clapton and Page.
He constructed what is to be known as like the guitar solo.
Yeah, which is interesting because think about when we talk about bands that did stuff before there was something to base it off of. To just do that.
Yeah, like you look at like the nonsense that fucking like, I always bash on fucking Neil Young, but you look at like the bullshit that he was playing on guitar versus like what Jimmy Page was doing.
So this is the thing. I'm a Neil Young fan, so I can get the bashing and I can accept it. Because again, I love Neil Young, love Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. But yeah, when you put it in that context, they're the same instrument.
Yeah.
They have about the same recognition in a mainstream sense. But what they're doing with it.
Exactly. Like, I don't want to say like Neil Young is less than by any means, because he does come up with very good guitar riffs and parts and stuff. Yeah. But
it's like pizza parlors. Like there are real pizza parlors out there, but people are ordering Domino's.
Exactly.
People are ordering Pizza Hut. They are just...
Is Neil Young the Little Caesars?
Neil Young is the Little Caesars to
Jimmy Page.
Jimmy Page's fucking Sorrento's down the corner. Is Neil Young? Yeah.
That's the title.
He's the mountain shouting of guitars. Yeah, now we're going to use that as the they do the same thing, but they just don't.
Yeah, and like oddly enough, they both play Les Pauls as well.
I know. Like this is
and Marshalls.
Unbelievable.
Jimmy Page is on like a whole nother level.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin 1 though, man, it's one of those albums where because it's just so recognized that I'll overlook it a lot because I just, how many times am I going to listen to it? But then when you listen to it again, there's so many albums in that time where you just finally digest them more than the songs that you're accustomed to and listen to it as an album. Like, these bands were making albums back then. They weren't like, all right, let's make 3 hit songs and then fill it with 6 more to get a complete feel.
Exactly.
Like, these songs, you can hear the fucking full passion and energy throughout the entire album. 2 more I want to mention just for their sales before we get into our maybe consensus pick. And if you want to rattle off any more. 3 times platinum, the self-titled by Rage Against the Mainstream. And then 4 times platinum.
Undeniable.
Yeah, I know you're not a huge fan, but the self-titled by The Doors, 4 times platinum.
I can understand.
Yeah, that's another iconic, you think vinyl records, that's just another iconic album to just own because it's The Doors and it's, great fucking music in my opinion.
Exactly.
Not my favorite album by them, but I always have like, that's my favorite, that's their best seller, that's their best one. And The Doors by The Doors.
Last one that I actually looked at that I have any kind of information is Slipknot's self-titled album.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because
2 times platinum.
That's crazy because I follow certain metal pages and I don't need to put them out in the airwaves. It's unnecessary, but one's like The Pit, We Are, and the other
yeah, I'm on them.
A Wire that screams really loud. But they always post Slipknot shit like that's it for metal.
Yeah.
That is it. Corey Taylor trimmed his pubes this morning. Like, that's their
full story, click link in bio.
What the fuck? I'm so sick of hearing about Slipknot, Corey Taylor, Rammstein, and Ghost. Like, that is apparently the new mainstream wave of, like, we're heavy music. Like, we listen to these bands.
I don't dig that, but at least they're not, like, Disturbed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, but Disturbed doesn't get the recognition to make them even more hated, in my opinion. But that's the thing about Slipknot, because Slipknot does, like, Iowa, it's a good fucking album. It is pretty fucking good.
Even Volume 3 and this.
And then we mentioned the self-title, and that's the thing I forget sometimes. Like, we were around when Slipknot was new, so we had the luxury to be a part of the bringings up of what Slipknot became.
And they were another band that fucking forged their own path.
Yes.
Like,
they came into that same scenery.
Like, they claimed new metal, but it wasn't new metal.
That's what I'm saying. They're almost like Van Halen to get lumped in with the glam metal scene.
Exactly.
And Slipknot very easily could get bunched in with Korn. And
anyone that knows
Limp Bizkit.
Anyone that knows music knows that they were way, way, way different. Yeah. Slipknot was like on a whole nother fucking like ethos.
Yeah.
I would think that Slipknot was probably more closely related to Deftones than they were to Limp Bizkit or Korn.
Yeah. But it's weird because they still weren't,
they had the aggressiveness.
They're kind of their own thing.
It's almost the equivalent of like Pantera coming out the same time as the Black Album.
Yeah.
Like, they were both heavy, but Pantera was way fucking heavier.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and sadly, not better. Sadly, but I would take Pantera. Pantera just was way more talent.
Oh, I'd take Cowboys over Black Album.
The thing about Slipknot is, too, they had the shock value. They had the characters setup theme, almost like Gwar without the super
and they didn't break that shit for a very long time.
And they didn't. Corey Taylor, even with the Stone Sour shit, you get a different side in his actual music talents beyond the aggressive side, which is interesting, and I can dig that. But the thing about it is, when we talk about like trying to compare like the heavy metal sense, Pantera never relied on theatrics, and I think that's another thing that can draw in a fan base, and it's good marketing.
Yes.
Like Gwar, for instance. Gwar's a great thrash band at the end of the day, but a lot of their fan base is drawn from the theatrics and the satirical content behind it.
And all the other
but Pantera, you were going to see them to fucking watch talent.
Yes.
I'm not going to watch Vinnie Paul drum on a fucking bunch of empty
beer kegs.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, there's just some theatrics behind it that'll draw on the fan base, and not to say they're not talented, but
there's aspects of Slipknot that are kind of like goofy.
Yeah. But there are actually some talent behind it, which I can accept. They're not totally just trying to make themselves into this comical band.
And honestly, like Jim Root and Mick Thompson, the guitar players, like they don't receive like any of the credit that they really should. Yeah, they don't really receive any of the credit they should. Like Jim Root is a fucking phenomenal
He
guitar
is good.
player, like insanely good guitar player.
He is fucking good.
And Mick Thompson is really fucking good too. Like Mick Thompson was in my top 10 guitar players.
Jim Root has the Fender, ain't it?
Yeah,
it's like a beefed up.
He's got a Telly, he's got a Strat.
I've seen the Telly. The Telly is the one that I saw.
The Jazz is fucking sick.
Yeah,
the
he's
Strat's
got a good
insane
setup.
too. But yeah, so Slipknot's fucking self-titled album, incredible.
So
Another
let's narrow this down. Get a little consensus because we haven't had a mini consensus moment in a couple of our topics recently. So I figured we can get this down. It doesn't have to be the be all end all, but just you're here in the moment. You can only have one of these self-titled albums for the rest of your life to listen to. Which one are you going for?
I know everyone's expecting me to say Van Halen, but Van Halen 1 is not my favorite album. It's stuck between Black Album
and Alice in Chains.
I think, however, the Black Album to me is more of a good repeat listener than self-titled, because self-titled there's more songs that I would skip on there and I'm just not a giant fan of.
Yeah.
So probably the Black Album.
Yeah.
Black Album would have to be my number one out of my list.
So I'm excluding ones that we did not really bring up because if I was going to think of one, it would be the compilation of Nirvana's Nirvana.
Oh, yeah.
That, greatest hits.
Strictly for You Know You're Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only song.
That's the only Nirvana song I've really actually thoroughly
enjoyed.
Personally,
that album is the best greatest hits in a sense because it has like everything. But for the sake of the albums we talked about, because I thought the same thing. Really thought about Rage because Rage is just my brand of tea. And aggressiveness all the time. Led Zeppelin, Boston. But the Doors, I think the Doors self-title, there was a period of time, I think junior year of high school, where I listened to that album so many goddamn times to a point now where it's like embedded in my brain that anytime I listen to that album, I feel like I'm in, October weather. It's like just everything's great. That nostalgia from that album hits me so fucking hard that I think the Doors self-title, in my opinion, would be that. That is just, to me, the perfect self-titled album. First album, every song you're familiar with, and ironically, the only song that I would find unappealing is Light My Fire because it's just too long and it's just too redundant. But overall, that album's just got so much good shit on it.
I can dig that.
Yeah, that's the one.
So what do you think? So what do you think? Albums that we didn't bring up, obviously there's quite a few we didn't bring up. And obviously, we really talk about shit that we know a decent bit about and stuff that we know that we can have conversations with. But if you feel like there was an album or a band that didn't get brought up and you feel snubbed because you wanted us to really talk about Weezer today,
I suddenly brought them up. Yeah. I threw them in there in a roll off of his names.
Speaking of Weezer.
Yeah.
Speaking of colored albums.
Sorry I didn't talk about Blur by Blur.
You can get us on our social medias, facebook.com/RATM podcast, Instagram and Twitter @RATM podcast. And if you have a list of albums or a list of anything, you can write to us, ratmpodcast@gmail.com. But until then, we're going to get into our suggestions for this week. Based off of the topic at hand, I would like to suggest the song Surfacing off of Slipknot's 1999 album, Slipknot. Surfacing just has a fucking killer riff in the beginning, dude. It's just a good-ass song. I was stuck between that or Sick. I like both of them. I didn't want to be like, Wait and Bleed. Yeah, come on, Wait and Bleed. Let's listen to that again. But Surfacing is fucking sick. Just a good-ass album. Very good album, very good song. Slipknot Surfacing. Check it out.
Fuck, you got me all screwed up over here now. I feel like I have to follow. You know what? That's what I'm going to do. I don't even think I've ever recommended this album, and I'll be pissed if I didn't. Yeah, I definitely did, and there's no way because it was just too redundant. Self-titled albums. Totally forgot to mention this, but I'm going to recommend a song off of it. The album is the 1988 release, simply entitled Danzig.
Oh, shit. I'm surprised you didn't bring that up.
Have I never mentioned this album? What the fuck is wrong with me? Great fucking album. So much shit on there. But I mean, I'm going to recommend, just because it's more off the beating side on the behalf of the album. It's called The Hunter. It's actually a cover song, which I found out that I did not know until way later.
Who's it a cover of?
I'll tell you in a second. I forget, but it's like a blues band. Wow. But the song is called The Hunter, second last track on the album. But yeah, the 88 release, Danzig by Danzig.
Nice.
For our movie suggestion, now here's the thing. The movie itself, you're going to have to look for on the Twig of Water.
Okay.
Or if you have Apple TV, it's available as well. But it is the 2019 release, directed by Stanley Nelson Jr. It's the Miles Davis documentary. It's the Miles Davis, entitled Birth of the Cool. Runs about 2 hours long.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a huge Miles Davis fan, and it's funny I keep it secret because I don't like getting in conversations about jazz because I don't know nearly enough about it to even start to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And if you bring it up to someone who's not a fan of jazz, they immediately think you're just being pretentious. Like, you don't even fucking know. I'm like, yeah, I don't listen to jazz like that, but I have, Bitches Brew and Kind of Blue and, some John Coltrane albums, but I don't go out of my way.
You dabble in it.
Yeah, I don't go out of my way to say I'm a jazz fan. But Miles Davis, man, he has a very interesting story. And Bitches Brew is just one of those albums when we talk about iconic releases. It's just a very recognized album. But yes, definitely check that out.
Nice. So once again, if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can find us on social medias. Facebook.com/RATM Podcast, Instagram and Twitter @RATM Podcast. And if you got anything to say to us, RATMPodcast@gmail.com. But until then, this is another episode of Rage Against the Mainstream Podcast for the books. Thank you so much for your continued support, and as long as you keep listening, we'll keep putting them out. Sorry for this one being a little too long, but this is something we like to talk about. As always, I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
Have a good night, guys. Thank you for listening.